The piece that you're going to use today is y equals mx plus b. And then why that's important is your m. So the big thing, m is your slope or your rate of change. And so just the slope piece. So m. So when you write the equation, you would still keep your x value. And then the other piece of it, your b value, this is going to be your y-intercept or your starting value. Those are the two big things that you need to understand with writing the equation. And then we'll actually go into IXL and I'll do a couple problems with you guys to kind of show you how you set it up. So your slope is always affecting like your x variable. So those are always going to be multiplied together. And then your b value is always the initial value where you're starting at in the equation. So let's look at a couple problems together. So during each week of piano lessons, Tara learns to play 2 new pieces. Write an equation that shows the relationship between the weeks of lessons, which is your x, and the total number of pieces learned y. So using the equation y equals mx plus b, it would be y equals, because you always start with that. Now, it doesn't say that she already knows so many pieces. Like if she says, like if it said Tara already knows 10 pieces and she learns 2 new pieces, the 10 would be your b value and 2 would be your slope. Well, in this case, 2 new pieces, that's your slope. So it's going to be 2x because it would be 2 times the number of weeks she has lessons. Your starting value is 0. So you could leave it as just y equals 2x. Or for consistency, if it helps you, you can do plus 0 so you know that that's always going to be your b value that you're adding on. So if I submit that, that tells me that's correct. So then if we look at this one, Samuel takes 10 quizzes each week. Write an equation that shows the relationship between the number of weeks and the number of quizzes. So again, there's no starting value in this case, so it would be y equals, so 10 quizzes each week would be 10x, where x is the number of weeks, and then plus, again, 0 because he hasn't taken any yet. So this one gives us 2 different numbers. So Kinsley already knew 2 appetizer recipes. So she's already starting with that knowledge. So that would be your y-intercept or your b value. And then she will learn 1 new appetizer recipe during each week of school. So that's your slope or your rate of change. So I do y equals, and then because, I'm going to just do this so I can explain. So y equals mx plus b. My slope is m, so I'm going to replace that with 1 because she's learning, that's the rate at which she's learning each week. And then my initial value is 2 because she already started with the knowledge of 2 recipes. If we look at this next example, so again, we know it's going to be in the form y equals mx plus b. Technically, it could also be y equals b plus mx, but b is always the starting value or your y-intercept. M is always going to be your slope. So Cody has already run 5 miles on his own, and he expects to run 1 mile during each track practice. So the current value or what has already happened or the starting amount would be 5 because he's already done that. And then the rate at which he's going to continue to run, that's your M value. So I'm going to replace M with 1 because the reason for that is I could replace X. Like if I said he has completed 6 track practices. Well, X is the number of practices that he's completed. So if you're like, how many total miles has he run? You could then do 1 times 6, which would give you 6 plus 5. So after 6 track practices, he should have run 11 miles then, like if he's keeping track of that. Okay, so let's do, I'm going to set it up again. So y equals mx plus b, and just make sure you always replace both. So in this case, it says Kimberly reads 2 books each month as part of her book club. Write an equation that shows the relationship between the months, which is x, and the y, which is the books. Well, the piece is it didn't say like Kimberly has already read this many books. So we don't know how many she started with, or we can assume she hasn't read any yet. So my B value then would be 0, or my starting value. Whereas your slope, your M, it's 2 books each month. So anytime you see like each or per or every, that is kind of giving you the indication that that's your slope. So this would be 2. You could also write it as a fraction, like 2/1, because 2 divided by 1 would give you 2. But I would just leave it as the whole number. Okay, and let's do one more. So maybe take a second, think about like how you think this one should be written. Again, a member-only speaker series allows people to join for $5 and then pay $1 for every event attended. So like the starting amount or the initial payment is that $5 because you're paying that to join. So that is your B value. And then the rate at which your cost could increase would be $1 every time you have an event. So that's your rate of change. So it would be y = 1x + 5. Awesome.